The general and special senses. Chapter 18. Introduction. Senses, our perception of what is out there. General senses includes senses that are non-specific. Pass information through spinal nerves. Special senses found within complex sense organs to cerebral cortex. Pass information through cranial nerves to cerebral cortex. General senses include senses that are associated with skin. Temperature, pressure, touch, pain, vibration, proprioception. Pass information along the spinal nerves and pathways to specific areas of the cerebral cortex. Special senses: olfaction, gustation, equilibrium, hearing, and vision. Found within complex sense organs. Pass information along the cranial nerves to specific areas of the cerebral cortex. Receptors. Sensory receptors are transducers. Change stimuli into electrochemical impulses. Specific receptors can transduce only certain types of stimuli. Interpretation of sensory information occurs in cerebral cortex. Depends on the area of the cerebral cortex that receives the information. Central processing and adaptation. Sensory adaptation, the loss of sensitivity after continuous stimulation. Tonic receptors are always active. Phasic receptors only relay changes in the conditions they are monitoring. Role: prevents brain from being overloaded with unimportant information. Receptors of the general senses. Nociceptors detect pain, refer pain, phantom pain. Mechanoreceptors respond to pressure and touch. Tactile receptors. Baroreceptors, Proprioceptors, Thermoreceptors, Tactile receptors found in the dermis. Baroreceptors monitor changes in pressure. Chemoreceptors detect chemicals in solution. Blood composition, the special senses. Olfaction, the nose. Olfactory receptors can detect at least 50 different primary smells. Located in the epithelium of roof of nasal cavity. Olfactory receptors molecules dissolve in the mucus of the epithelium. Olfactory neurons pass through the roof of the nasal cavity and synapse in the olfactory bulb. Olfactory tracts go directly to the cerebral cortex. Gustation, the tongue. Taste receptors are in the taste buds. 6 primary tastes: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, water, umami. Gustatory receptors located in papillae on the surface of the tongue. Contain the gustatory receptors. Molecules dissolve in saliva. Gustatory receptors. Pathway of gustatory sense. Cranial nerves relay sensory impulses to the cerebral cortex. All pass through the medulla and thalamus, equilibrium and hearing, the ear. External ear. The auricle directs sound waves into the external auditory meatus to the tympanic membrane. The middle ear contains the auditory ossicles, separated from the external ear by the tympanic membrane. Malleus, incus, stapes. Connected to the throat by the Eustachian tube. The inner ear, separated from the middle ear by the oval window. The inner ear consists of a series of canals filled with fluid. The inner ear consists of a series of canals filled with fluid. Vestibule. Semicircular canals. Cochlea contains. Organ of Corti. The vestibule detects static position. Hair cells are embedded in a gelatinous material. Otoliths at work. Otoliths are balanced on top of gelatinous material. Slide when head dips. Bend hairs. Generates nerve impulse. The semicircular canals detect dynamic balance. arranged at right angles to each other. Hair cells are embedded in gelatinous material with fluid over it. Movement of head bends the hairs, creates nerve impulses. Semicircular canals at work. The cochlea divided into 3 tunnels by membranes. Tunnels connect with the oval window and round window. Organ of Corti. Cochlear chambers. The organ of Corti consists of hair cells on a basement membrane. Tips of hairs touch the tectorial membrane. Basement membrane vibrates. Hair cells bend. Sends a nerve impulse. Pathway of auditory sense. Summary of hearing: sound waves enter the external auditory meatus. Tympanic membrane vibrates. Auditory ossicles vibrate. Oval window vibrates. Fluid in cochlea moves. Basement membrane moves. Hairs rub against the tectorial membrane. Nerve impulses sent along the auditory nerve to the brain, vision, the eye, accessory structures. Eyelids protect the eye. Conjunctiva lines the eyelid. Lacrimal apparatus. Lacrimal gland produces tears. Lacrimal canals drain tears into lacrimal sacs. Nasolacrimal duct drains into the nasal cavity. Extrinsic muscles move the eyeball. Structure of the eye: 3 tunics. Outer tunic includes cornea and sclera. Middle tunic includes choroid coat, ciliary body, lens, iris and pupil. Inner tunic, retina, contains photoreceptors. Rods and cones. Includes optic disc, macula lutea and fovea centralis. Photo of posterior eye. The cavities of the eye. The lens separates the interior of the eye into 2 cavities. Anterior cavity contains aqueous humor. Glaucoma. Posterior cavity contains vitreous humor. The cavities of the eye. The vascular tunic contains many blood vessels and nerves. The iris controls the size of the pupil. Suspensory ligaments attach the lens to the ciliary body. Controls the shape of the lens. Allows focusing on near and distant objects. Cataract. The retina cones allow for sharp color vision in bright light. Contain pigments. Macula lutea. Fovea centralis. Rods provide for vision in dim light. Contain the pigment rhodopsin. Most insect periphery of retina. Photo of posterior eye. Pathway of vision sense. Summary of vision: light rays enters through the pupil. Light rays cross in the lens. Retina receives reversed and upside down image. Rods and cones are simulated. Optic nerve carries impulse to the brain.